Hey, welcome to Style Sessions. I'm Roger Mittag. Welcome back if you've been following us. I hope you're really enjoying these sessions. I love talking about true to style beers, and I love talking about really special beers that were developed and now are part of geographical protections. It's because in the beer world, we don't really have a lot of geographical protections. We do in the wine world. There are tons, and they're based on varietal and region that they're grown in. But this is one of very, very few, and it's fascinating to me. We're going to talk about what you might know as a Kölsch, but is pronounced Kölsch. And this is a very, very unique style. So let me pour it for you. We'll talk about the glass, and then we'll talk, as we always do, a little bit about the history and why this style was actually created. So the brand I'm featuring today is Gaffel. This is from Cologne, Germany, which entitles it to actually use the term Kölsch, which I'll get into in a little bit. But we've got this wonderful beer that we're going to pour into a glass called a Stange. Now, Stange means pipe. So if you look at this glass, it's perfectly cylindrical all the way up. It's very small. It's a 20 centiliter glass, which is typical of what you're going to get served if you go into the local pub in Cologne. So we're going to pour it, and we'll talk a little bit about it. I mean, this is a really cool glass because it's keeping everything really easy to drink and very thirst quench. You got nice foam on there. It's just gorgeous to look at and smell and taste. In the pub, this is a little bit more challenging because you're going to drink this rather quickly and they're going to fill it up, and then you're going to get a big bill at the end of the night. But let me explain a little bit about style and the history of this brand. So I'll go into what it is first. So a Kölsch is a hybrid beer. It is a lagered ale. So what's a lagered ale? Lagered ales are pretty simple. It means you're taking ale yeast and you're treating it like a lager. So you're doing bottom fermentation, which means that you're doing cold fermentation, and then you're aging it cold for longer periods of time, just like you would a Pilsner. And so what you end up getting is a little bit of the fruity characteristics that you do off of ale yeasts, but you get this smooth, easy drinking, clean finish of a lager or a Pilsner. And that's really what this style is all about. So let me give you a bit of history. So in 1396, the Brewers Guild of Cologne was formed. It is one of the actual oldest brewers associations or guilds in the world. And it exists today. Today, in modern times, there are only 11 brewers in that particular guild. There's a guild and association of 20 brewers, but there are only 11 brewers that are actually brewing Kölsch or Kölsch styles. So, give you a bit of background. So, 1842, Pilsners were created and basically swept the world. Everybody was really fascinated by these light, easy drinking, golden, clear beers. And it was just moving through. Now, places like Dusseldorf and Cologne were still using ale yeast, and the Brewers Guild was very adamant that they continue to brew in their traditional manners. However, they were very afraid of the impact that Pilsners were going to have on their economy, on their breweries, and on their profitability as a whole. So they started to make some adaptations. So the stipulations were that you could use some of the modern brewing techniques like lagering, but they were still going to continue the old way of brewing, which included ale yeasts, which they used. So the intent was to bar the gates around Cologne from any Pilsners that were coming in. So it was a very protective measure that they did. So we move forward into the 20th century, and in 1918 was the very first time we heard the term Kölsch being used. And it, in its essence, is basically telling you that this is a beer from Köln or Cologne. So now we move forward, beers are constantly being viewed as part of that particular city. And then in 1986, with everything that was going on in Europe and the European Union and the reunification of Germany, the Brewers Guild of Cologne applied for a geographical protection, and they were granted one in the 1990s. So we've got these really cool beers that are now being protected by the European Union. they're not being protected here in North America just yet. So my advice is that if you're going to brew a lagered ale and you want to call it a Kölsch, that you would be paying homage if you attach the word style to it as opposed to just saying Kölsch. Because in essence, if you're not brewing in Cologne, Germany, or the geographical protection says it is within a 50-kilometer radius of Cologne, but at this point in time there are only 11 brewers, as I mentioned earlier, that are actually brewing Kölsch in their home market. This is a really, really easy beer to drink. So typically speaking, you get a little bit of pear, a little bit of apple, you might get a little bit of white wine notes on there. You're definitely going to get some grass and hay off of this because of the German hops that are being used, and you might get a little bit of bread crust and toast. So not bready like a Helles and not full grassiness like a Pilsner, but you're going to get a little bit of a hybrid of everything involved in there. When you drink it, more of the bread crust toast is going to come out, the cracker is going to come out. It's going to have a very, very quick finish. It's going to have a slightly longer bitter aftertaste, not as long as a Pilsner, not as short as a Helles. It sort of sits right in the middle of those. It's a really easy beer to drink. It's very thirst quenching, it's very refreshing, and it's beautiful in the Stange. So next week, we're going to leave Germany. We're going to move over to England and look at an iconic style called the British Mild. So once again, if you're looking for a little bit more beer information, you can check out tfkbeer.com, join Prud'homme Beer Certification at any point. You can take it online. You can join us in classroom settings as well. But more than anything, I just want you to understand a little bit more about beer, and hopefully you're enjoying these sessions. So I'll see you next week. Cheers.